Grim Dawn recently released one of the biggest content updates that it's ever had. And this content update has added the new roguelike dungeon Tomb of the Heretic, and the whole questline that leads you there, which itself has its own 3 secret mini dungeons, new dialogue, new characters, a bunch of new lore, and some new items as well. So in this video, we're going to be going through this whole questline of the Tomb of the Heretic, and we're going to be going through every single piece of lore that you find in there. If you're looking for just a straight guide on how to get through these secret dungeons and how to do this questline, I'm going to be making a separate video where I edit out all the lore, and I just want to be as quick and precise as possible with that, so that will be in the description, the first thing in there if you want to see that. But if you'd rather just listen to the lore while you play, this is the video for you, because the lore of Grim Dawn is very good, and just the random notes that you find scattered on the ground really do change how the entire game and the area that you're playing in feels. Throughout the Forgotten Gods campaign, there's a character named Riggs that you can speak to every so often to have him gift you a random item as long as you promise to repay him back at a later time.
Well, look what we've got here.
Decisions. Seems the emissary has left you with a bit of a choice to make, friend. Which will it be? Bismiel and her web of spies, Dreg with his fancy visions, or maybe Salile with the ritual sacrifice? That last one sounds like a winner to me. What, me? I don't serve any of them. I serve the god of making Riggs a wealthy man. Well, I'm what you might call a supplier, a purveyor of particular goods, if you will. I have a special talent for finding high-end and difficult to acquire objects. Things this crew here can't seem to get enough of, particularly since they are set out on their little crusade here. Something about a long-forgotten god and the end of the world or some such sounds like business as usual to me. A wise man once said, "Where there's a fight, there's a fortune to be made." Well, that's an oversimplification. You see those other trash peddlers down there? They've got it all wrong. Selling goods for iron bits is a child's game. A man isn't going to get rich playing games. No, my friend. I trade only the finest goods for favors. Favors from very powerful people. Favors that I'll be cashing in when I see fit. No, I don't think you're listening to what I'm saying here. I give them things in exchange for favors. They're in my debt. They owe me, you see. There's people all across this land that owe me, from emperors to dung sifters. The living, the dead, it makes no difference. They're in my debt, and when I need it most, I'm going to come calling. That's wealth right there. Ah, that's the genius of it right there. So many people across this land are in my debt. You never know who they might be or what they might be capable of. Say I make a deal with a wealthy merchant, then later on, when I come to collect my debt, he doesn't feel like paying. I pleasantly remind him that there's a lot of other folks out there looking to make good on their debts, and then leave him to think about who else might owe me and what they might be willing to do to pay up. That usually works. If it doesn't, I just get one of my other debtors to come and tune him up a bit. Sometimes you need to send a message to anyone who might be thinking of defaulting on their debt. But most folks are glad to pay up when it comes time. It's a relief of a sort. See, now you're getting it. That's what I'm talking about. He wants to make a deal. Let me think for a second. Yes, come to think of it, I do have something for you. You know what this means? Of course. You're going to owe me, and someday I'm going to come and collect. Do we have a deal? Well, here you go. I'll tell you what, if you come back sometime later, I might even have something else for you. At the right price, of course. And once you return to Riggs, after you beat the Forgotten Gods campaign, he expects you to now pay off your debt to him. There you are, right on time. I always had you pegged for someone I'd want owing me a favor. But defeating a god? Granted, a famous tormented god, but a god nonetheless. I think you and I have some matters to discuss. Matters of debt? If you refuse his offer, he will be very deeply upset. Well, let me refresh your memory for you. Remember when you came to me in need of equipment and I provided without questions asked, so long as you agreed you'd owe me a debt? Well, now's the time for your end of the bargain. Now, don't be like that. A man makes an honest deal with you, and this is how you respond. Someone with a shorter temper might not take too kindly to that, but I know you'll come to your senses. Look, let me spell it out for you in terms you might understand. I've got people all over this land that owe me big. Any one of them would leap on a sword to be free of such a weight. What if I so happen to tell them to return with your head? You catch my meaning? After this dialogue, you have a chance of encountering some of his associates in any area of the Forgotten Gods campaign. You can always return to him to accept his offer at a later time. Back already? Met any interesting people out there? Perhaps they've changed your mind? Why, it's simple, really. I've got word of a legendary relic in these parts known as the Iris of Eternal Night. Couldn't tell you what it does, but when something's mentioned that many times in those old texts, I keep my ears open. While its current location is no mystery, the means to enter it are not as obvious. I know that it resides within the tomb of the Heretic, far to the north beyond the Valley of the Chosen. But the ancient Corvan people had it sealed away centuries ago, and I'm sure they had their good reasons. The only way through is with the Seal of Morgoneth. The text on these are profoundly cryptic. Here's what I found. So that the darkness of Morgoneth may never know the light of the Eldritch Sun, the way forward has been fed to the devouring sands. Bunch of poetic nonsense if you ask me. Well, that's all I can do for you. The rest is up to you. The seals that Riggs seeks are scattered all through Act 7 in secret dungeons. You're only given vague clues about the locations of each of these dungeons, but lucky for you, I'm here to tell you exactly where they are. The first seal is found in a secret dungeon east of the Corvan Sands Riftgate, just like the riddle hints. The Maw of Inhat is probably one of the most interesting dungeons in the game by itself, with its own lore and its own side quests tied to it. In the western edge of the Karen Docks, you can find the first piece of information about the Maw in a note titled Carmac's Final Words. Simply incredible! The internal functions of this vast creature are unlike anything I could have ever imagined. It appears it has actually developed a symbiotic relationship with the local fauna, allowing the Corvan scarabs to roam freely and their larvae to feast upon the refuse. I suspect it is a means for the Maw to clear out undesired particulates. I've also become intimately acquainted with an undocumented form of worm that seems to burrow directly into the Maw's insides. They appear to emerge only when a meal is present, as my crew quickly learned. Their deaths were most unfortunate, as I now find myself alone inside the creature. But the notes I've taken on the feeding cycle will be invaluable in my chapter on the Great Maw of Inhat. Alas, the viscous material the worms extrude upon flesh seems to be having an ill effect upon my ability to walk. My legs now feel like gelatin. I'll have to gather a sample at my next opportunity for posterity. I expect it will not be long before the opportunistic feeders return. The very air here is a toxic miasma that disorients and overwhelms the senses, which makes intruders easy prey. I must admit, my hubris got the better of me venturing inside this creature, but what self-proclaimed explorer would turn down the opportunity of a lifetime? While I will inevitably soon join the ranks of the other prominent pioneers in the field of zoological exploration that have lost their lives in the field, I fully expect that my work will feed the voracious curiosity of future generations. May they complete the picture which we started this day, and do so remembering the name of Carmac. While exploring the Maw of Inhat, you'll come across some notes left by Harod, an unfortunate soul who was betrayed and left to die. Tuha, that son of a spider! He handed me the satchel with the seal. He told me I have served him well all these years, and that I was to have the honor of tossing the twice cursed thing to the Maw of the Sands. And then, when I walked to the edge, the jackal hit me from behind. I must have blacked out. When I awoke, I saw no light above. I've now wandered inside this forsaken place for hours, and everything looks the same. I have no way to mark where I am or where to go. There must be some truth to the legends of this beast spanning the entirety of the basin. It is like a maze, except living and writhing. And by the depths of the nights, the smell, like week-old vomit boiling beneath the desert sun. I've also taken note of several chambers filled with a sickly green fluid. The stench is stronger near them. I've since steered clear of them. I had to pause in my exploration. I've lost track of time and the air here is thin. I found the driest place I could to lay down. I know not how long I slept, but I was awoken by large grubs spraying something viscous all over my clothes, almost like spider webs. Now my skin tingles where it was exposed. I dread to think what would have happened if I had not awoken when I did. Would I have been devoured in my sleep? My senses dulled by the strange sludge? The horrid things retreated after I brandished my sword, but I know they are not far behind as I walk. They are in no rush to have their inevitable meal. I thought my loyalty to Tuha would be how I forged my name into the ranks of the Temple Guard. I must have angered the priests somehow, but what could I have done? I can think of no altercation that would have them do this to me, unless this fate awaits all who know the location of the seals. How do two people keep a secret? One kills the other. My skin itches and burns, but I must not touch it. Those grubs did something to me, made my flesh soft like meat that had been boiled too long. My clothes and armor have started to rot and rust away. My hair is falling out. I think this living horror I am inside is slowly digesting me. I must hurry and find an exit before my life is spent, and when I do, I'm going to slit that traitor Tuha's throat like the dog he is. I know where they're taking the second seal, and I'll eagerly await their arrival in the shadows of that forsaken fortress. But I only have a little flame left, and I see it flickering, drawn by a subtle breeze. To find one's way out of a cave, one must follow the directions the torch is blowing. By the light of Ron, I will have my revenge. Remember the name Tuha, because this won't be the last time you'll be hearing from him. Upon killing the boss, you'll be rewarded with the first seal, and then examining that seal will give you the riddle that you need to find the next one. In the darkness bound, Morgoneth's vile tongue saw 7 fall from grace. Joined in the night, his fate became theirs. No longer will they bask in the light of the eldritch sun, they crave the cold embrace of night, and so forever they will roam its dark tapestry. The way is shut, the heresy sealed, but should the Corvin faith be shaken once more by Morgoneth's folly, then seek the second seal where stone meets the bleached sands, beyond the watchful eye of twin griffins. I pray that the knowledge of this black stain upon the Corvin lands will be lost with our final breaths. So we return back to the Corvin Sands Rift Gates and head south this time until we find the twin griffins that were mentioned in the hint. Following a secret path to the east of the griffins will lead us to a long abandoned fortress that now houses the next seal that we need. Throughout the Forlorn Bastion, you'll come across a journal of Captain Harod that explains what the purpose of this fortress was. A new post and completed my inspection of the fort and its troops. It is a small structure, but impressive in its armaments and the regiment's dedication to their assignment. I was told the fort has no formal name and I was not to issue it one. This is not a matter I intend to question, as my orders were handed down from Visor Haman himself. The regiment, known as the Blades of Atef, is a formidable one. I have watched them spar and their skills in combat are frightening. But this comes as no surprise. They have all been trained from a young age as both assassins and soldiers. I have no doubt they will make for excellent guardians should we face any threats. The fort's most notable feature is the long double bridge built over water that flows in from the ocean. Beyond it lies the vault I am to guard with my life. As to what it contains, I was not given specifics, only that the object in question had not yet arrived. I'm not going to jeopardize my fortunes by asking too many questions. This is an excellent post. It is quiet and the salt air is pleasant. Much better for my lungs than the damp air of the cliffs of Abid. I do not think I could have asked for a better assignment. A priest named Tuha arrived today. He is a hard and unapproachable man. He asked to have his entourage put up for the duration of their stay, which of course I agreed to. After a night's rest, he asked to be shown the premises, culminating in the underground chamber. As we made our way through the fort, I pointed out the various features and soldiers of note. Priest Tuha showed little interest. Later on, he interrupted a demonstration by the blades and asked to be shown across the bridge. I shudder every time I cross that expanse. Despite my training, I cannot help but fear falling over the edge. The water would break my fall, but there is no way back should I survive its icy depths. Once beyond the bridge, Tuha became very interested. He examined every rock, every crevice, pushing and pulling on bits of the mosaic adorning the walls. He was searching for a weakness, I presume. We spent the remainder of the day there. I sent for food several times, but he touched a little of it. Finally, late into the night, he was satisfied. Of what, I could not say, and I dare not ask. On the following day, Priest Tuha and his entourage moved in a large stone chest adorned with a griffin. It did not appear to have any hinges or lid. Whatever was inside, it was heavy. It took a team of 20 mighty men working tirelessly all day to move it. By the end, their backs glistened with the sweat and blood from their toils. Once the casket was in place, the priest instructed them to go rest on the bridge. As they made their way down, Tuha motioned with his scepter, and several of the blades of Atef descended on them. They moved swiftly and mercilessly. Within moments, all the workers were bleeding out on the stone bridge, their throats slit before they even realized what had transpired. Tuha ordered their bodies to be weighed down with rocks and dumped into the waters churning below. The harshness and brutality was so sudden, I briefly watched in stunned silence, but then it occurred to me, the blades do not follow my orders, they follow his. The priest gathered what remained of his caravan, a mere handful of soldiers. I suspect they too were blades of Atef. I followed them back to the surface and inquired where the caravan was heading next. To that, he said, someplace deep that light has forsaken. And then he gave me a look that made my blood run cold. A look that told me I should not ask such questions unless I wanted to join the rest of his caravan in the black waters below. Each night, as I stand watch atop the fortress ramparts, I am reminded of the carnage that took place beneath, and the chilling realization that I am honor-bound to die in this place sets in. I find no comfort in the other denizens of the fort. To speak out about its secrets would sooner see me flayed by their vicious blades. In that, I serve alone. So here we learn more about Tuha and some of the more horrible things that he does in order to protect the knowledge of where these seals are. So these seals must be really important. And then once again, upon killing the boss, you'll be rewarded with the next seal, and then examining that seal will tell you exactly where the third one is located. In the darkness bound, Morgoneth sought to disguise his intentions in the light of Atef. But by the grace of the Eldritch Sun, the veil was lifted from his machinations. He served a great hunger, and hunger is all he shall ever know. The way is shut, the heresy sealed. But should the Corvin faith be shaken once more by Morgoneth's folly, then seek the final seal deep within the howling abyss. May no other ever set eyes upon the night's terrors. You'll find the hidden passage in the western edge of the Howling Chasm, which leads to the Howling Depths, the location of the third seal. Just like the other dungeons, you'll find a few pages of a journal, this time from Tuha himself, the man mentioned in the previous two dungeons. I count the days since setting off from the Gardens of Atef and the grim events of that fateful night. The Grand Magus Morgoneth and his acolytes were felled by the wisdom and might of the Temple Wardens, but what the Heretic unleashed cannot be so easily halted. It can merely be contained. While the eternal night lies dormant beyond the ruined gate, the final burden fell to but one. If the Corvin people are to be truly free from this darkness, then none can know where the seals lie hidden. In that I have offered myself, for no other could be entrusted with this grave duty. Vizier Urhamin swore to prey upon the path of ascension that my sacrifice not be in vain, and granted me his holy sigil so that none can stand in the way of what I must do. I pity the men who now accompany me on this journey, for they do not know the heavy price they will soon be forced to pay. Eternal Sun, protect me that I endure these crimes. An eternal pox upon the heretics that have caused this calamity and what I am forced to do. May Ulzuin thrust his burning fist into their souls, that they may feel the agony of death once more. I've left my finest acolyte, Harod, to suffer within the desert maw. I do this knowing that my unexpected betrayal will drive him deep inside the terror beneath the sands in a vain attempt to escape, and his revenge. He was always so driven and resilient and loyal. Now I've repaid his long service with agony. May the first seal be devoured over 1,000 years. The second seal's location offered little respite from the evils I was duty-bound to commit. There, the lives of my caravan were forfeit so their tongues may never slip the location of the cursed object. While this may not be done by my hand, the blades of Atef saw to the grisly deed. Their every move felt as if I was the perpetrator. I now set out with what remains of my entourage to the final location, where the third seal will forever lie beyond the reach of the blessed sun, and where I will remain to atone for my sins. Namia, my desert flower, how my heart aches to be with you and the children one last time. I fear this letter will not find its way to you, but I must write down my thoughts nonetheless. You see, I've lied to you when I set out beyond the Apish Mountains. I am not returning home. One more task remains that will take me to where even the light of our divine cannot reach, where I will forever remain. While I cannot speak of what I must do, please know that it is of the most vital importance in order to keep you safe, to keep us all safe. I am sure you think I exaggerate, but after what I have witnessed, I no longer think there are limits to the evils mankind is capable of. In that, I am no exception, for the path that I have undertaken is dark with the blood of my fellow men, men that trusted my every command. Know that in my final moments, I will think of only your beautiful smile. Your face will be the only sun I will worship for the remainder of my days. Give the children my love, yours until the sun burns cold and the stars go dark. Tuha. So here we get more of a personal look at Tuha's life and why he feels like he had to do the things he did, but even though he feels bad for them, is that enough for anyone to forgive him? The boss will drop the final seal, and then examining this seal will give us the hint that we need on where to go next. In the darkness bound, Morgoneth forged his betrayal. In the tomb of the heretic, his soul knows no rest. The way is shut, the heresy sealed, but should the Corvin faith be shaken once more by Morgoneth's folly, then steel your soul against the tendrils of the night and deliver the keys to the path of the damned, beyond the resting place of our chosen champions. With great sacrifice, we sealed away the night. Do not take lightly what awaits in its embrace. Now that we have all three seals, the next step is into the Tomb of the Heretic itself. To get there, we'll need to head southeast of the Corvin City Riftgate to the Path of the Damned, which we can now unlock using the three seals that we've collected. The path will lead us to the Lost Oasis, where we'll find the entrance to the tomb. You'll come across a few of Tuha's reports and urns throughout the Lost Oasis. When the summons arrived to discuss what had transpired in the gardens of Atef, I could not believe my own eyes. That was once a place of festivities and worship. I still remember the first time my father took me to see the brightly colored lanterns of the night festival, a tribute to Atef who would never again see the light of Ran. But this darkness, this is twisted beyond comprehension. The Grand Magus perverted the worship of Atef into something unrecognizable, and for that, the Vizier handed down the most serious judgment, exorcism by fire. At his command, I've set out with an entourage of priests and temple wardens from the great Corvin city. We will purge this heresy and all those that dared to defy the Corvin faith. We stand before the gates to the Garden of Atef and immediately sense a wrongness surrounds us. There is a foulness in the air that cannot be described by mortal senses. Many had already fled this befouled place. Those less fortunate had already succumbed to the madness and required the release of death. Our orders were clear. No trace of the corruption of night is to escape the valley. With a heavy heart, we do what is necessary for the good of the Corvin people. The closer we get to the court of the Magi, the stranger the sights become. The men are uneasy, but the horses are inconsolable. The remainder of the journey will be on foot. Then we finally enter the tomb of the Heretic, the dungeon that we've all been waiting for. Inside the first level of this dungeon, we'll find some notes left by Morgoneth, the Heretic himself. The Grand Master has a way with words. I fear that I am merely caving to his flowery speeches and excessive flattery, but if 6 others have already joined him in his endeavor, then there must be some merit to his pursuits. His methods have always been unorthodox, for a lack of a better word, but if we are to topple a system that's been in place for centuries, perhaps unorthodox is exactly what we need. I too tire of the chokehold the Corvin priests have upon the study of the vast celestial veil. I think they often forget that they are not gods. What gives them the right to judge us for wishing to know more of our makers? Do they fear what lies we may uncover? And now, with rumors of the Temple of the Eldritch Sun growing cold, perhaps we are at the precipice of change our stagnant society desperately needs. The prospect of being part of this push over this veritable edge has my spine tingling with the possibilities. Magi Oritia. Brothers and sisters of the moon, I implore you to listen. Like me, you surely feel the absence of the Eldritch Sun's warmth upon our lands. The priests may deny it, the vizier may create spectacles upon the temple steps, but we all know the undeniable truth. The Corvin people have been abandoned before the vastness of the celestial veil by an uncaring god. But will we stand idle as our enemies encroach upon us? Of course not, brothers and sisters. We are the Corvin people. Our steel is mighty and our knowledge of the arcane is without compare. Join me in the gardens of Atef. Let us cast down the shackles of the priests sitting upon their golden thrones in Corvin City. We will carve a new future from the tapestry of fate, one forged by our own hand and not by the whims of fickle gods. And now we must use a skeleton key to enter the roguelike dungeon. After this door, there is no turning back. Inside the Court of the Magi, you'll find 2 random Magi of the 7 available, all with their own powerful skill sets. There are also quite a few notes scattered around here, starting with the next set of Morgoneth's lessons that give us more of an understanding on how his newfound religion works. Fear not, my Magi. While we may be delving into the unknown, we are not doing so blindly. Here, within the gardens of Atef, the iris of night offers us a glimpse into the tapestry beyond. Watch as the stars dwindle and fade at its edges. Witness as the insatiable darkness eats away at what gods have wrought. That, my friend, is true power. The power to unravel even the will of the gods. This is what we seek and what we will learn to master. In that, I will be your honored guide. I have peered into its infinity and know how to navigate its pitfalls. It is only natural to fear this emptiness, the absence of all things. But if you give yourself fully to unraveling its secrets, we will surpass even the gods the priesthood claims to speak for. Do not mistake my enthusiasm for rash action, however. It is imperative that we proceed with caution, not just for the integrity of our spellcraft, but to shield ourselves from the prying eyes of the priesthood. So that each of us knows we do not stand alone, I have forged 8 rings. These jewels not only serve as a symbol of binding us in this conclave, they will ward us against the unwanted attention from our plane and the one beyond. And then we get the 3rd entry of Tuha's report. What we found inside the gardens defies comprehension. Words fail me at the sight of this depravity. The earth itself has been eaten away by nothingness. The windblown sands fall off the shattered edges and vanish into the abyss beyond. Several men have balked at the sight, their morning rations mixing into the unbearable tapestry painted before us by Morgoneth's heresy. The local wildlife has succumbed as well. Creatures of the night that would be a natural sight in any other part of the basin are distorted and wrong here. They claw at their own flesh in some vain attempt to escape the madness of their new reality. I have no doubts we will be reduced to a similar writhing mess should we remain here too long. The 7 acolytes to Morgoneth's folly were a prime example of this insanity. As we approached, we could hear them babbling in strange tongues. They stood gathered around a pile of human bones as if chanting a ritual. A dark aura emanated from them that was reminiscent of the void tearing this place apart. We took no chances. If the Magi were performing a spell, then it was best that they not finish it in our presence. We greatly outnumbered them, even having several of the temple's stewards among our number, and despite having the element of surprise, the raw power on display by these traitors was astounding to behold. Scores of my men vanished in an instant, others were torn apart by hungering tentacles. But by the light of the eldritch sun, we were triumphant. What bit of darkness these fools tapped into has been expunged by fire and their forsaken souls trapped by the priests. They will know no rest. Death will offer them no release from the nightmare they have created. While this small victory brings what remains of us some solace, we all know that the greater threat still awaits deeper inside the realm of the night. The Grand Magus, Morgoneth, still stands. Finally, a confluence of the Magi that explains what these powerful figures are going through. The world around us is a lie perpetrated by the evils of the priests. We alone stand as heralds of truth in the shattered reality, scions of an eternal night. Morgoneth may have opened our eyes to the truth, but the whispers have opened our hearts to the solution. It writhes outside and within. The black tendrils of eternal night cradle the unmaking of all. The flutes of despair sing their chorus, and we alone dance to their blissful tune. The betrayers come for us now, but they have not yet seen the beauty of the abyss. But they will. They all will. Even as the end to our mortal forms rapidly approaches, the whispers of Morgoneth emanate from within our minds. We were deceived, for in the forging of the rings Morgoneth told but 7 lies. His ring was made to be above all. He is the prime, the one to bring us all to the abyss, and the one who will bring us back. They come. Let the chorus of unreality begin. Let them hear the whispers too, for in the end of all things, only nothingness remains. Now we enter the final part of this journey into Morgoneth's folly to face the heretic that has caused all of this. On the way to Morgoneth, there are 2 notes scattered in urns. One left by a poor soul who got involved with disorder. By the light of Ron, by the waters of Ehina, the emptiness before us moves, its tendrils sleep into my very thoughts. I stare in the what should be empty blackness, and yet whispers fill my mind. How can mortals stand before such raw malevolence? The answer is as plainly before me as the sands beneath my feet. We cannot. The abyss is inevitable, terrible, and yet beautiful. At first I was terrified of its portents, but as my eyes adjusted to the nothingness, I realized that we are all meant to become as one with it. I teeter on the edge of the cobblestone path, and I no longer fear what awaits all of us, even the gods. I go now to my destiny. And another note being the final report of Tuha's mission to end this madness. The malevolence is palpable this deep into the abyss. You can feel it in the air, like a whisper that gnaws at you, a slow blade to the nerves. I have seen it in the eyes of the men, a harrowed look, pale and wide-eyed. Last night, the whole of the camp was awoken by a ghastly shrieking. One of my captains was carving his own arms like a meat shank, screaming about the bugs under his skin. Several others have wandered off without a word to their superiors. We never saw them again. Further tragedy struck us as we neared Morgoneth's foul altar. One of the temple stewards, a mighty construct blessed by the eldritch sun, suddenly collapsed as unearthly tendrils wrapped themselves around its legs. Several of my men approached to investigate only to find themselves at the mercy of our very ally. The steward rose again, but its eyes no longer shone with the brilliance of the temple fire. Instead, they were black of the abyss, claimed by the foulness threatening to consume us all. Those nearest to the steward were the first to fall, cleaved in 2 by its mighty halberd. Several more turned to ash as the construct exhaled the void itself. Ironically, it would be the very blessings of the eldritch sun that proved the steward's undoing. With a fiery rune emblazoned in the air, I forced the guardian to the edge of nothingness, and several of our magi blasted it with spells that sent it plummeting into the same void that now controlled it. If such corruption can claim even our mightiest guardians, then by the light of Ron, we must hurry. Upon killing Morgoneth, he drops a note, going through the insane and rambling memories that he once had. Merciful Atef, tell me what I must do. The tendrils of night claw in my waking thoughts, and the abyss fills my dreams. The world of day no longer comforts me. I've peered beyond the far reaches of the tapestry of the gods. I knew not what to expect, but I expected something. What awaited my sight was the absence of anything at all. In this void I find answers to the questions I did not know I asked. Words filled my mind that carried no meaning, yet I was familiar with them, like the comfort of a warm hearth in a winter's night. How could I deny such beauty, such perfection? The tapestry of the gods is a disease, a stain upon the uniformity of the abyss. To defy it is sheer folly. The lies of the gods have been lifted from my eyes, but others stand blind around me. They too shall be made to see. No, they will not understand. They will falter, and everything will shatter. They cannot merely be shown the truth. They must be remade to serve it. Yes, I will bind them in darkness, bind them to my will, so that all can be brought to the Unmaker's embrace. The anointed hour arrives. Yes, they come, but they come too late. The iris points the way to the dawn of eternal night. When the devoured stars align, the tendrils of hunger will unravel the very earth, and the end shall begin, as it must. At the conduit, the shadows take form, the seven will rise evermore, and when they come from me, the fools will all be made to see. Morgoneth the Unmaker is here, and here forever he shall be. And in the treasure room following his defeat, you'll find the Iris of the Night that Riggs has sent you for, alongside with the final note of the questline, being the third iteration of Morgoneth's lessons. It is as I told you, my brothers and sisters in darkness. The betrayers inevitably learn of our actions, and they come. Oh, they come. They bring their runes and their constructs of mortal war, but they will soon learn that one cannot defy the ultimate truth. The abyss calls to us all. We may fight it, resist it, but in the end, we will all be consumed by it. The gods learned this truth long ago, and even they must ultimately submit. Their stars will not defy their fate forever. The conduit of eternal night is complete. Its sunlight will bask the stars in shadow and usher in the unmaking. It matters not what happens to us this day. The betrayers at the temple are too late. The barrier is no more. The great devourer has tasted our bounty and will be held back no longer. They may rip and tear at our flesh. They may even triumph over our mortal forms, but they have not peered into the abyss as we have. They know nothing of what awaits and what is yet to come. So go forth into eternity, my Magi. And then when you return the Riggs and hand over the Iris, you finish the questline. So there's the full guide and the full lore of everything to do with the Tomb of the Heretic. I didn't exactly expect this video to be like 40 minutes long, but there is a lot of lore to go through here, and I did have a lot of fun reading it. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you got this far, I'm going to assume you did. And let me know in the comments if you like this type of content, or if you do prefer the super quick type of content. Because I am free to make both, but I really like to see which one is more popular, if you get my sense. So yeah, I appreciate you sticking around, I appreciate you watching this video, and I hope you have a great day or night.